Salve, discipuli. Welcome to the second part of our discussion of reflexive pronouns. So in the first part we saw we use the reflexive pronoun when the subject also plays a different part in the sentence, a direct object, an indirect object, a possessive, or, well, actually we can say it's not a possessive in Latin, but some other part in the sentence, object of a preposition. Now, these are the forms we saw: sui, sibi, say. We noticed a couple of interesting things that for just the third person is a separate pronoun. In the first and second person, we just use the same first and second pronouns we use for other things, right? So I see myself. In English, we use the reflexive ends in self. In Latin, we could just say I see me, me video. We also notice here that the singular and plural are the same, which is nice. We only have 4 forms to keep track of. Okay. Now, we also notice there's no nominative. The reason for that is this: the nominative is used for the subject, but we use reflexive pronouns when the subject is also playing a different role in the sentence, something other than the subject. And the nominative case is used to refer to the subject and other things that directly reflect the subject or directly describe the subject. We only use the reflexives when the subject plays a different role. So Julia sibi donum dona. Julia gives herself a gift. You've got Julia, the subject, but also Julia, the indirect object, the recipient of the gift. 2 different parts. So we use the dative sibi. Julia sees herself. This is the example we saw above. Julia say Wida, where Wida is the direct object. Julia talks to herself. In Latin, they would say talks with herself. So cum is the word that means with the ablative of accompaniment, right? Julia se cum dicit. Julia talks to herself. Let's get. You notice I didn't give you an example of the genitive. That's a little different because the genitive, the primary thing we use the genitive for normally in Latin is possession, but we don't use the genitive for possession in Latin. Instead, we use the possessive adjective suis, which we'll talk about a little later. So, but we do use the genitive for some other things. And the most common thing with reflexive is what's called the objective genitive, which again, we'll get to a little bit later, but here are a couple of examples. Julia is mindful of herself. Julia sui memor est. Or aren't you ashamed of yourself? Nonne tui pudes. So we don't use the genitive for possession, but we do use it for some of these other things, which means that we probably won't see as much of the genitive as other forms. So that is today's lesson on the reflexive pronoun.